Hi, my name's Jez, and I'm going to be giving you an astrological and emotional weather forecast for the beginning of the year. Just looking at the sky, what's going on at the moment up above, and seeing how those planets and their dance across the sky is going to be affecting us as individuals and collectively as well. So this is just a short video just to explore some themes, the major themes. Now, one of the major ones that I'm going to talk about really is the big news astrologically is Saturn entering Capricorn, which is its own sign, which it did towards the end of last month, the 20th of December. So this is quite a big deal because obviously Saturn rules Capricorn, so it's its own sign. The last time it was in its own sign, because it takes 29 years to move around the whole zodiac. So the last time was sort of 29 to 30 years ago, so the late 80s really, the end of sort of 89 around that time and a little bit earlier, but which was a big deal because you also had Neptune and Uranus in Capricorn at the same time conjuncting, and that began a kind of revolution, if you like, which we saw all across the world with the fall of communism, with the final winning of capitalism, if you like, against the socialist order, the collapse of the Eastern Bloc. But also there was a very cultural revolution, which you had in music, the rise of rave culture, the rise of a lot of ecstasy, a lot of drugs, a lot of tribal kind of culture coming back, tribal rave, stuff like that, repetitive drum beats, people going into a trance. So this was the last time Saturn was in Capricorn, but it was very much affected by also this Uranus-Neptune conjunction. So this time it's slightly different because what we've had is the last 10 years really we've had Pluto going through Capricorn, which Pluto is the planet, the god, if you like, of transformation through often destruction and quite painful destruction. And an example of this was literally 2 months after Pluto had gone into Capricorn. Capricorn rules banks, institutions, the establishment, if you like, the established way of doing things, the structure, the physical structures that rule our society, if you like. And within 2 months, we had the great financial crash, which people had been predicting for a long time, but it was almost it waited till Pluto, the god, the planet of transformation and destruction, went into Capricorn, ruling banks, and then you saw the destruction happening. And really we've been dealing with the fallout of that for the last 10 years. Pluto moves very slowly, so it's still in Capricorn. Saturn will conjunct Capricorn, Pluto rather, but that's not till 2020. So what we're seeing, I think, is that when Saturn comes into this this mess, if you like, that's been created, this destruction of a lot of, but also a lot of the darker side of Pluto ruling the shadow. We've seen of institutions, if you like, a lot of the sexual scandals, the abuses and things like this within institutions like the BBC, within all kinds of, you're seeing this Pluto very much bringing out the shadow, if you like, bringing out the shadow that's been locked down in these institutions. So, and that will continue over the next few years still. And so what I think you're going to see when Saturn comes in is a cleaning up, if you like, of this mess. Somehow we're going to have to deal with the consequences or deal with what's happened through this very destructive cycle. So already you've seen within sort of a couple of weeks of Saturn being here, again you're seeing a lot of political challenges on the people who maybe have taken advantage of the destructive, chaotic nature that Pluto's brought to institutions. People have kind of taken advantage of that. I think with Saturn coming in, because Saturn is also called the rule of the god of karma, you're going to see that being challenged, them being challenged personally. So on a more personal note, this will particularly affect individuals if you've got your sun sign. So if your sun is in Capricorn, particularly like the first 10 degrees, but also if you're in any of the other cardinal signs, so Libra, Cancer and Aries. If your sun is around the first 10 degrees, so if you're born within the first 10 days of that sign, this Saturn's going to be aspecting your sun, so there will be this will be quite significant for you. If also, if you know your chart and you've got other planets in the first 10 degrees of the cardinal signs, so if you've got Venus there, then this will be affecting relationships. If you've got the moon there, it'll be affecting your sense of security and your emotional self. And Mars, it could be challenge you, your will, your anger, things like that. So if you know your chart, then these planets, the first 10 degrees of cardinal signs, are going to be challenged. To begin with, if you are Capricorn and you're born in the first 10 degrees, then this is the start of a new 29-year cycle for you personally. So your sun is like your light, what you bring to the world, your gift, if you like. Now, there is this kind of misconception with astrological sun signs when people say, oh, I'm in Aries, so that means I'm like this. Whereas actually, with our sun signs, where our sun is, we have to work towards becoming that. It's not like an innate gift, if you like. We're more like our moon signs, instinctively and innately. So if you've got a moon in, say, Cancer, and then a sun in Aries, the moon is going to be obviously very sensitive, but you might, deep down, you're going to be more like that and emotionally vulnerable than the more, and you might have to work towards that fire of that Aries sun. So the sun is something you're working towards constantly on your life's path. And with Saturn here, and particularly in Capricorn, it gives you the opportunity to really ground your vision, or any practical ideas you have, any new businesses or new projects, anything that's gonna bring you an essence of who you are into the world and ground it and make it real in the world. It's a great opportunity for working towards those things. You will have to work hard, because with Saturn it's all about hard work. You're going to have to, and there'll be lots of challenges as well. Saturn is often seen as like the temper of metal, just when it bashes you into shape, if you like, until it forms something much more productive. So there will be challenges, but the more hard work you put in now and more you think upon these kind of bigger cycles, so thinking about the next 7 years, thinking about even the next 14 and even the next 29 years, this is the start of this kind of cycle, whichever's relevant for you. So start thinking about what these seeds that you're planting now, it's going to bear fruit if you work hard, and particularly in 7 years' time you'll start to see this. But if you work hard now, you might even start to see it now. So it's really about the hard work, grounding your visions, grounding this sense of who you are, your essence, bringing your essence to the world. Now, if you're the other cardinal signs, you've got to look back at the cycle. So if it was Libra, if you're Libra in the first 10 degrees, things that happened sort of 7 to 8 years ago, that was the beginning of the cycle. Now, anything you lay down in place there, or anything that started happening around that time for you, you're reaching another cycle of that. So the Saturn will be squaring your sun. So there's a challenge, if you like. There's a challenge for you to let go of that which isn't important for you, that isn't contributing to your sense of being, and letting go, and that might mean letting go of practical stuff as well. A change in projects, going on new paths with projects. It's a challenging time. There might be challenges to your authority. People might start challenging. You might feel very restricted, and as if life's quite hard work at the moment. But again, it's a testing. Saturn is always testing you to let go of that and become more in tune with who you are and your essence, which is the sun. Likewise for Cancer, the cycle would have begun 14 to 15 years ago. So anything, you've got to look back at the seeds of that, and now you're halfway through this cycle, if you like, halfway through the journey. Similar challenges to the square is with the opposition, but you might, more so with the square, you might be Someone might literally be coming out of the kind of shadows, if you like, and directly opposing you, or events in your life might be opposing you and testing you. That's the key is to realize that you're being tested here. You're being tested to how much do you want something? How much do you want to ground a vision? How much do you want to bring the essence and the sense of self into the world? How much you want to give birth to yourself, really? And likewise with Aries, you're going to go back a bit longer, so 21 to 22 years, and you're in the last cycle of this, the last 7 years. So Saturn brings with it a lot of wisdom, but it can mean a lot of isolation, of feeling of withdrawal from the world a little bit, because it's almost like you want to get your own house in order when Saturn comes to town. So it's a time for really withdrawing, and it might be quite a serious time as well, because like I say, sometimes it can feel quite heavy. But again, the important thing is the more work you put on it to achieving whatever it is you want to achieve. Whatever it is, Saturn is always about achieving something, though. It's not about it's not like a Neptunian just let go of everything and be in the moment and have a mystical vision. It's not like that. Saturn is all about achievement. It's about what you're here. Wherever Saturn falls in our chart will tell us what we're here to work with and work on in our lives. So that's the news with and that's a process that's going to be happening for 6 to 9 months for everyone, depending if your sun is later on. So towards the 10 degrees, it's going to start later. If it's right near the beginning of the cardinal signs, then it's starting now. It's happening now. So it's a really good time to start setting your intention and moving forward where you want to be in the next 7 years. Looking at that. Other not so big events, but still events are happening in January. Particularly, we had the Jupiter-Mars conjunction yesterday, which was around 17 degrees Scorpio. So if you have 17 or 18, it was 17 degrees and 55. So that brings a lot of fire. Jupiter enhances, expands everything it touches. Mars being the god of war and conflict, you could be saying there's going to be a lot of conflict coming around because Jupiter is going to expand that. Particularly if your sun is in, say, Scorpio, so that's around 17 degrees. So that's about 17 days into the sign. But also the other fixed signs like Taurus, Leo, and Aquarius around 17 to 20 degrees. You're in the middle of a Jupiterian cycle, and the Mars is going to enhance this. So it's a time really for you guys to really start taking some risks. Jupiter's all about taking risks, aiming big. Whereas Saturn can be quite constrictive, and it's all about paring down, if you like. Jupiter's the opposite. It's about expansion, so it's taking risks. It's like grabbing hold of your visions and really going for it, even if it seems crazy or unwise. Jupiter doesn't really care, because it's just like, well, at least I tried, at least I did something, at least I made an effort. So that Jupiter conjunct Mars is really making that quite expansive. It could be very expansive, but there could also be a lot of conflict and a lot of hot air as well. I think we're already seeing that in the political environment, especially with this Trump book. He's a very Jupiterian character in some ways, in terms of not caring about details or anything like that, and it all about being full of a bit of hot air as well. So the Mars is challenging that. So that's there's a lot of fire, and there's a lot of energy in people in general. There's a lot of energy there, so it's important that we focus that energy, focus that fire, and usually fire needs focusing into the earth element. And unfortunately, in the West, the fire tends to go up into our air, into our head, and mix with a lot of air and send us a bit crazy. We have to ground the fire. We have to bring it back down to earth, put it into something functional. So that helps ground that energy. The other big news is we've got this month is we've got Venus conjuncting Pluto, which will be tomorrow around 19 degrees of Capricorn. So it could be some challenges in terms of relationships, could be some quite transformative times in your relationship if you're in a steady relationship. Because soon after Venus will be squaring Uranus. So it's a time for kind of challenges, expansiveness in relationships, probably kinky stuff going on there a bit with the Venus square Uranus or the Venus conjuncts Pluto. But really, it's if anything, it's all about how do we look at relationships and try and get to some kind of, particularly with the Venus conjunct Pluto, some kind of intimacy with ourselves and with others, or intimacy with ourselves through our relationships with others. So it's a great time for really kind of taking off the masks and being naked metaphorically, so being vulnerable with each other. So if you're in a relationship, it's a really good time to explore some of these vulnerabilities and what might hold us back in terms of really what fear might hold us back in terms of connecting with our heart. So that's going to be happening. That's happening around tomorrow, and Venus is quite quick moving, so it's not a big deal like the earlier stuff that I was talking about. It's more of the general climate, if you like. And then we've got the because we had the full moon on the 2nd of January, which was quite a big full moon, I think. I've got the chart for that up here, which because the moon was opposing the Pluto, so it's a very transformative moon, full moon, and it's and also opposing with a wide degrees opposing Saturn. So I think that kind of the kind of shadow stuff that we've been seeing over the last 10 years, like I was saying, with this Pluto going through Capricorn, that full moon just brought it back up to the surface. So again, we had all this Trump stuff, all this kind of real shadowy stuff. It's like this is a time where the secrets, anything that's been hidden, the taboos, the secrets, the destructive stuff that's been really buried deep into the shadow, this is going to continue to come up. So it takes a lot of integrity, really, a lot of to live in these times. We have to find our own personal integrity, our own stability. Well, Saturn, if we work with it, it can bring that. It can bring this sense of stability, even if there's this crazy chaos of a whirlwind happening around you in your personal life, in the collective, there is a possibility with the Saturn here to stay centered, and that's really, really the essence and the key, I think, of working with these times, and working particularly with Saturn here, is to stay in your center, whatever is happening, whatever's kicking off around you, whoever's kicking off around you. If you can stay in your center and stay grounded and connected to the earth, then you will be able to move through these times of transformation rather than being actually caught by them and flung around the mixer, if you like. Stay centered, stay with Saturn, ground, be with the earth, give your offerings to the earth, give thanks to the earth. Great times for really honouring and respecting our connection with the mother and giving back as much as we can. So I think that is enough to be going on with. So that's the emotional, astrological, psychological, spiritual weather forecast, as brought to you by, my name's Jez. I work as a shaman full-time and astrological interpreter for people also. So I hope you enjoyed it, and see you next month, hopefully. Okay, bye.